First question as an icebreaker. Let's say, God forbid, but if your house happens to catch on fire and you can only save one physical item, what would it be?
Wow. Not including people.
Not including people.
Yeah.
Just grab something from your house.
That's a great question. We have a board in our kitchen that's got a bunch of pictures on it, like kids and all that stuff. I probably would grab that off the wall.
Nice.
Because it's got a lot of memories on it.
The family. Family first. I like it. Okay, so did you know you were going to be an entrepreneur or entrepreneurial from a young age?
I didn't really view myself as an entrepreneur until I got into the working world, when I just saw a number of things in the business market that I did not like, and I wanted to make it better.
Okay.
So going through college and even just getting out after college, I've always kind of wanted to do my own thing, but like never really kind of knew what that meant.
Right.
Until you actually see reality set in and you're like, this can be better.
Right.
And that's when I ventured out.
Yeah, I feel like maybe especially like y'all's time, like you and my dad growing up, being an entrepreneur was definitely not a popular thing.
Yeah.
But nowadays I feel like it's more mainstream.
It is.
And so I guess you didn't even think that was an option back then.
Yeah, and even going into sales, we're all selling something.
Right.
And even the landscaper is selling, your yard looks good. That's what they're selling, to make your yard looks good. I never thought of myself in sales in any capacity, and if you're an entrepreneur, you're selling yourself as much as you're selling any product or service,
Right.
Or you're selling a solution to a problem. So both of those things, entrepreneur and kind of sales, wasn't really on my radar until kind of getting into the working world and just knowing that's the lifeblood of people that are successful.
Right. Yep. You got to create your own success. You got to work for it. So you went to the University of Tennessee. What did you study there?
I studied marketing and logistics and transportation. It was a business degree.
Okay.
My father worked for Dominion Energy and was the first person to bring that up as an option. And I was going to school and I was in the marching band, and one of my fellow trumpet players came to me one day and said, "Hey Todd, I heard you're in marketing and logistics and transportation." I said, "Yeah, matter of fact, I'm just starting to get into my major." And he said, it's not offered in Virginia, so you can get in-state tuition through this particular program. And I said, "I'm interested."
Yeah.
And was able to get, in the last 2 years of my college career, was able to get in-state tuition at Tennessee because of this major. But it was a business major. I took all the marketing, all the management, all the accounting kind of classes. But I took as many marketing and administration classes as I could, just because that's kind of the flavor that I wanted to explore.
So you went to a different school before Tennessee for 2 years?
No, so it was all University of Tennessee, but I had to pay out-of-state tuition.
Okay.
The first 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. So are you using any of the knowledge that you gained from college today in business?
I would say it's hard to really kind of connect the dots between one or another. The fact that I'm in a business that does a lot of logistical work. We move product from point A to point B on a timeline, on a budget. A lot of that I studied in school. I'm not using it to the capacity of which we studied. If I operated a large warehouse, then it would come into play more often. But we rely on our factories and rely on the freight companies of the world to kind of handle a lot of those logistics.
Gotcha. So would you recommend college to like kids coming out of high school?
I would recommend the right college, and when I say the right college, the big name colleges might not be for everybody. Paying $40,000 a year out of state tuition because the campus looks pretty is not a reason to go to college.
Right.
Paying $40,000 a year because the team just won a national championship is not a reason to choose that college. A a lot of colleges offer just as quality of a program at a fraction of the cost, whether it's a community college or a local kind of smaller college. To me, the success of the individual is how they apply themselves in general, not necessarily what they studied. When was the last time you walked into your doctor's office and said, "Oh, doc, where'd you go to school again?"
Never.
You don't ask those questions.
Nope. You
barely ask the questions of the attorneys that you work with. Where did you study law again? Nobody cares. They just want to know that you're an approved whatever you are, doctor, attorney. You've got the credentials. Otherwise, you're working on me and you're not approved. There's some credentials there that they obviously have to go through. But as far as where you go to school, I don't think matters as much as the quality of the person who applies himself while they're there.
Gotcha. So, did you have any other business ventures before you came up with TK Promotions?
The lemonade stand growing up on the corner of the street, that's about it.
Right.
No, nothing to write home about or to really kind of claim as a venture. I'm always looking for ventures.
Gotcha.
And I'm at a stage of life with young kids and a growing business here that I haven't been able to venture out, if you will, and kind of explore a lot of those ventures.
Your time is consumed in other places.
Correct, but there's a lot of interest and passion for that.
Yeah, awesome. So, what made you take the leap into entrepreneurship, or at what point did you have that epiphany? Like, this is what I want to do.
So I was 27 years old and was not married, not really even dating anybody. And just got to the point in my career, just as in a sales role, that things can be way better than they are. Whether that's for me or for clients or for the system that it is, I can improve upon this. And so I kind of took it upon myself to say, hey, let me start a company that meets all those criteria. It's taking care of employees better. It's treating clients better. It's doing a better job of providing quality products, at a fair price, and servicing and kind of building upon people's brands. We've been able to kind of find a niche doing that, rather than slapping a logo on something. Like we care about the individuals and the brands that we're working with. And so when I kind of got those itches and where I was, and I was single, and I was like, hey, this is the time to fly.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't work out, it's not a big deal. It would be a lot more challenging to do that today. Not that it can't be done, it's just the hurdles to find success are a little bit more challenging.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the name TK Promotions?
So when I had a business partner whose name was Kyle, and I've purchased him out as of 5 years ago. So when we first started, our the advisor that was helping us start the business was mentioning, typically people put their name somehow in the business, or it's the type of business that you're in kind of, portrays what the business is. And his name is Kyle, and obviously I'm Todd, so we thought TK, KT. We went through all kinds of different iterations, and his wife actually was the one that said, I like TK Promotions. And we were like, sounds good.
Let's go with it.
Let's go with it.
So how come you decided to buy him out?
Yeah, so when we started, he was 58.
Okay.
And so he knew he had about 5 years left before he was ready to retire. And so when he was 63, we had a conversation and said, hey, let's go ahead and make this happen. So he's been retired now for almost 6 years.
Wow, that's interesting. He decided to jump into a new business at 58.
So he was a regional vice president for a furniture company here in town that was liquidating themselves and going out of business. And he did not want to really retire at that point, was looking to kind of do something and kind of stay in the game, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so I approached him to say, hey, would you be interested? And he said, absolutely. Let's do this. Because he had never run his own business before.
Gotcha.
But he had done a lot of business operations over the years, so it was kind of a nice cap to his career. But also, for me, it was the beginning of mine.
Interesting.
Yeah, my entrepreneurial career. So
nice. So how did you know that this business, like TK Promotions, it was like kind of your first entrepreneurial business venture? how come, or how did you know that this was going to be what you were going to build around your family, around your life?
Sure. At that point, it was the only thing I knew. I'd worked in this industry for 4 or 5 years in sales, and that's what I knew. So I was able to slide into it pretty easily.
Okay.
It's a lot more challenging to jump into something that you have no idea what it is.
Right.
Requires a lot more work and a lot more diligence on making sure that things fall into place. And, you know, since that point, obviously there are other industries that I, you know, have a liking to. I love the financial world. I love the real estate world. I don't have any experience in those worlds, but I think there's passion there. So, you know, those are kind of the, you know, branding and marketing has always been a passion of mine, and then real estate and financials have always been something of interest. And so, I can see myself down the road looking into some of those ventures as a possibility to kind of explore into.
Cool. So what did you do before you started this? You were sales for what company?
A company here in town called C. Forbes Incorporated.
Okay, and they did same promotional stuff?
They did primarily federal government business up in D.C.
Okay.
And so I joined them out of college, directly out of University of Tennessee. Was just a sales rep for them, and then started TK Promotions 2008.
Gotcha. So how hard was it to get this business up and running? Like, did you have to pull all-nighters or?
So we first started it out of the third spare bedroom in my house.
Nice.
It was the third bedroom, and we had 2 of us operating out there for 3 months, and then we had one more person join us for another month before it got overwhelmingly crowded.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up renting office space down the street. There are a lot. I mean, still to this day, there are times that I'm working nights, and there are times that I'm working, you know, early in the morning just to get things kind of catch up or get ahead. At that time, with no family and no kids, I was able to, you know, work longer hours and kind of do what it takes to get the job done. But it was helpful having a partner that was able to kind of tag on some of that work. I primarily focused on the operation side of things while selling, and he focused on the selling side.
Gotcha.
And then, you know, kind of taught me some things over the years. So
cool. So where do you think you got this work ethic from, or this drive to build a business?
That's a great question, because I go back to that a lot, trying to figure out. You know, my dad worked for VDOT and for Dominion Energy. You know, 2 places his entire career. You know, Dominion Energy, he worked for like 30 years.
Wow.
My mom has worked at our church for 30 years, like very loyal, but not entrepreneurial places, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it came from just my experience in venturing out into school, kind of on my own, kind of exploring the territories of a large school, being a part of the marching band that traveled, and being a part of different groups that would do certain types of service projects and things like that. Just kind of learning and seeing the world in a different view.
Gotcha.
It kind of allows you to kind of start to process those things, as opposed to kind of just not experiencing those things and not knowing what's out there, what's available, what can be done, how can you break through the ceiling. If you're not exposed to those things, then your mind just won't travel to those areas. Right. And so I think through the combination of having those experiences, I was able to see, like, there are a lot of people out there doing a lot of great things. The status quo, what I'm doing today, doesn't always have to be the case. I can go out and do those things too. And, you know, I think just have been driven by, you know, finding success, and I think success can be defined in a number of different ways. Mm-hmm. It's not always financial. Some success could be, let's build a business and let's make sure that all the employees are taken care of. That's success. Yep. That's success to me.
Create jobs
for people, and making sure that they're finding a place that they can feel comfortable and fulfilled in what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And that usually what drives me more than the financial end of it.
Gotcha. So you said you were still kind of single when you first started the business. Did starting it and working on the business, like, for these long, like, blocks of hours at a time, did it affect your personal life in any way?
I would say no, because I was able to balance. I mean, there's always a balance.
Right.
You know, it's never all one or all the other. I would say more now with a family,
Mm-hmm.
it affects, my ability to either work at times that I would think I need to work, but also know that being home and being present with my family and kids is very important, and that overrides anything that I could accomplish here,
Right.
by far. So I just know that's my role as a father and a husband more than it is a boss and a entrepreneur, even though that obviously funds the family. The family is the goal, the priority.
That's your priority. Let's see. Have you encountered any like business crushing obstacles that almost sunk the business at any point?
So we started in 2008, and if you can remember, that was
The market was going
the
down.
bottom.
Yep.
Right? If we had started in 2006, I think we would have had some challenges, some significant challenges. The fact that we started at the bottom, business can only go up from zero.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the timing of when we started was very beneficial to us because we were able to start it pretty lean and operate it pretty lean for a number of years and not really, add in a bunch of frills that weren't necessary but just seemed like they should have been there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to kind of grow organically through that process and not overextend ourselves like a lot of people had. Obviously, that's why we got in that problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So, did you ever have a mentor in business when you started?
My business partner at the time, since he was in his late 50s, was essentially kind of a built-in mentor.
Gotcha. Yeah.
For a lot of things. As far as like an advisor, I've not had a contracted advisor or anything. I'm in the Virginia Council of CEOs, and I'm in a roundtable with 7 other CEOs in the Richmond community, and
Right.
that is in and of itself a kind of an advisory group.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's like a bunch of mentors there helping you out.
Yeah, and that's not a paid advisor. I mean, you're kind of in there with them.
Mm-hmm.
I have explored a number of people that kind of pay to be advisors to me and kind of have, my best interest in looking at kind of growth patterns and,
Mm-hmm.
numbers and things like that I would think be helpful in growing the business.
Yeah, I know that we have a coach as well. Dad pays a mentor, and he's the guy that speaks at our events. Yeah, we talk to him every week, and he always keeps us on track. So I feel like
and gives him some pretty hard feedback too.
Yes, he does. I think you started working with him back in probably 2000. Oh, crap, I don't remember what year it was, but it was when the business was not doing well, and he kind of came in and taught Dad like how to build it back up pretty much from nothing the right way. So I know that was huge for him.
And that advisor is specific to your industry, right? Or is he kind of a general advisor?
Nope, he's just for our industry. So
Yeah.
his story was he started in the same business that we were, and I think he was even like a security advisor for like Bank of America and
Okay.
Johnson Control, and he grew this business, I think it was like to like 100 million, and sold it off and to start this coaching.
Gotcha.
His thing is kind of like a salesperson to advisor or business owner to advisor.
Sure.
It was kind of like his transition. So he definitely had a lot of experience in our industry. So it's kind of perfect to find somebody like that.
Yeah, somebody like that's amazing to have, on your side because
Mm-hmm.
they're able to kind of say, hey, wait, before you do that, think about this. You're like, wow, would have never seen that coming.
Exactly.
Or reiterate, hey, you guys are doing a great job. Push even harder because it's going to continue to flourish. So
You're doing the right thing.
It's nice having somebody that can objectively sit back and go, no, or yes, or have you done that yet? You need to get on that. Kind of keep your feet to the fire.
I agree. Every time we have a weekly call with him, it always relights that fire for the week.
So both of you get on the call with him?
Yep, I usually am involved with it as well. He tells me stuff to do, he tells Dad.
Yeah.
And so it's perfect, really.
That's great.
So, how do you avoid burnout? Or have you ever gotten the feeling of like burnout where you're not really super pumped about work?
I wouldn't say that I've reached anywhere close to burnout. I mean, there are times that you spend a week at the beach with a family and it's just like hard to come back to work.
Right.
Or I enjoy playing golf, so it's like, hey man, it's Friday afternoon. Like, what are we doing in the office right now? I should be out playing golf. Like, but I try to keep a pretty realistic expectation of myself to say, like, you can't always play golf. You can't always go to the beach. Can't always work. You got to find a good balance between all of it. And so I've got a pretty good support network of friends and family that, check on me and, make sure that it's not all about work and, make sure.
Gotcha. Keeps your mind in the right place.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how is business going today?
So we've had a good year so far. We're pretty steady when it comes to a day-to-day business. I think the majority of our business is corporate.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of government work, but we also do some gift shops and some colleges and universities. So we have a pretty diverse portfolio of clients. But in the corporate world, that's where the significant growth happens because they're not set on a certain budget all the time. They have to get pre-approved every year. They're able to kind of take off and say, hey, we're having a great year. Let's add these events to our schedule. All of a sudden, that growth happens. So that's the exciting part.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's happening is just the opportunities within the corporate market.
Gotcha.
We're right here in Innsbruck, and so there's all these companies sitting around here that are
Exactly.
buying our products and need our services. And really, it's just telling the story of how we can help them, and then making their jobs easier.
Right. And I think that you have like a really good the mindset with it, where it's not just like you're selling shirts with logos. You're uniforming teams so they look good, to keep your reputation good, and to just make you look like you know what you're doing as a whole.
Absolutely. To me, we're in the reputation business, just like you alluded to. We drive ourselves every day by helping our clients' brands look great, because the better they look in front of their clients, the more business that they're going to get. We also, what drives us is the individual we're working with. If they have success in working with us, they're obviously going to look great in their position. Their bosses will notice, their coworkers will notice. They're going to come back for more because they know that we're going to take care of them, we're going to make them look good. So their reputation within the company is obviously improved, as well as the brand of the whole company. Want to make sure that the quality of the products are there, the service and delivery is on time, that way that everything kind of happens, just like it should.
Gotcha. So what would you think is like a big threat to your business? Maybe losing these corporate accounts, or
people say like online is a threat. We don't really battle with that because we're not really a commodity. I mean, we don't sell on commodity.
Mm-hmm.
We sell on service and kind of a consultative approach.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, like if a company goes down, obviously that's lost business. But that's to me why we diversified our client base.
Mm-hmm.
We lose a corporate account, no problem. We've got these other accounts over here that are fine.
Right.
You can't really 100% protect against any of that, but you can always, just like any financial portfolio, if you have everything in emerging markets and emerging markets are terrible, you're going to hurt.
Right.
If you have, blue chip stocks, you've got small chip stocks, you've got, growth and income funds, you've got bonds, and you've got emerging markets, you've got all the different components of which you need to hopefully grow a portfolio. You might not grow as fast as you would if you had all emerging and it was going great,
mm-hmm.
but you're able to kind of protect yourself against some potential, pitfalls.
Losses. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I go with my dad to a Mastermind event. We go all over the country really, and Canada sometimes he goes.
Nice.
I usually don't go with him to those, but it's basically everybody from his own industry,
Yeah.
and they all get together and there's not competitive, so you can share all the secrets and stuff. And one of the things that they make sure is like you don't want to have one account that's like 50% of your revenue, because then if you lose that account, you're probably gonna have to fire employees and downsize and whatnot. So diversifying I feel like is huge in business.
And there's probably a lot of companies out there that are thriving on one account.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you just gotta protect yourself against that.
Right.
I mean, it's nice to have, but the smaller the company you are, the more that's a challenge. To not have one. So the larger you grow, you got to make sure you got either a number of those accounts, or
mm-hmm.
you've got enough diversification where if one of them goes down, then
you'll still be able to be afloat.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's tons of other competitors in like the promotional industry where you can just buy stuff that's brandable. Like even what are some other companies that do
In Richmond?
Or just, I feel like there's online stuff you can get, like Vistaprint even maybe?
There's a 4imprint.
Custom apparel.
Custom ink.
Custom ink, yeah.
Yeah, there's companies like that, Custom ink primarily does, small runs of apparel for family reunions and, family
Gotcha.
beach trips and things like that.
Just like on a more personal...
I'm sure they do some corporate business as well, because the corporate people that are calling them don't even know better. And so they just go online to do it.
Right.
Pretty much for them, from a pricing standpoint, if you're above 25 pieces, we're more competitive pricing wise.
Okay.
But some people just like to go online.
Right.
We like to find out, like, why are we choosing this shirt? Who's this going to? Because we can help provide feedback on, we've done that shirt before, and there's some problems with that shirt, and we'll tell you about it. This shirt right here is just as good with, for less money. Or what about upgrading the shirt to a nicer feel of a shirt that people might actually keep it versus throw it away?
Right. So you would say kind of that consultative part of your sales process is what differentiates you guys from like Custom Ink.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how do you keep a steady flow of business in where I feel like the custom apparel is like a one-time purchase? Like, for example, we bought shirts from you once or twice and then it's nothing else. So how do you keep like that steady flow?
So there are different sizes of companies. Some companies just need to outfit the company and they're done for a couple of years until they either have new employees or they're like, hey, it's been 2 years, we probably should re-up on our shirts. Mm-hmm. Then we have companies that are like, hey, we've got 200 people and we're always churning through new people, or they're in a kind of an industrial or a blue collar job, and so like twice a year we make sure they got new stuff.
Gotcha.
So it just depends on the industry, it depends on the size of the company. And then we have companies that want really high end brand name stuff that have, a lot of client events around the country at golf resorts or at beach resorts, and they're like, hey, we've got gifts for you. Here's a nice shirt, here's a nice bag, here's a nice speaker or a tumbler. Mm-hmm. And so there are events going on that they have kind of within their business model that, they need things to give to clients to kind of, one, either thank them for their business or to hopefully attract to their business.
Right.
And then the larger companies of the world have uniform programs, and so they've got thousands of employees, and they want to make sure that those people are always outfitted, and there's always things going with them.
Mm-hmm. So are you ever coming up with innovating ideas to kind of add to your business, add value in ways? So where do you get the inspiration to come up with that?
So I would say to this point, we haven't really innovated a lot. Mm-hmm. We've kind of gotten the foundation set, and we're able to kind of provide service to our customers and provide the products. We're really good at delivering X product through mm-hmm. X timeline to deliver on X date for an event or for some type of thing. We're really, our best is the execution of the process.
Gotcha.
There are people out there that are better innovators than us, but if to me, we're always trying to learn and trying to find what that innovation can be for us. Mm-hmm. I would say we're not there yet.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of hard to like think of other things you can do when you're doing just like.
We talked about that, I think with your dad at one time, like, maybe I was talking to your dad, but how can you add in some type of recurring service, whether it's a monthly box that you guys pay $50 a month for, and we send you 10 samples every month of product. Mm-hmm. And so we get 10 people to sign up, you got $500 of recurring revenue that you can send out samples to, and they get to see the latest and greatest.
There you go. That's a great idea right there.
So I mean, it's been done.
Okay.
I've seen, not necessarily in this area, but I've seen it done in other areas before that could be some type of add-on service. Mm-hmm. I guess we would have to determine, is there a market for
that stuff?
For that.
Right.
Yeah.
So how important do you think it is to have a good employee culture?
I think it's the thread of any business. Mm-hmm. And corporate can't establish a culture. It's the people that work within the company that establish a culture. So the people that you hire is important. You got to hire to the culture. if you hire a bunch of people that don't really match your culture, well, your culture is going to shift over to whatever kind of
the dark energy, the negative people.
Yeah, it's gonna shift towards that. If you hire, really quality, innovative, thoughtful, hardworking people, that's where your culture is going to kind of trend towards. And I think most companies nowadays realize that you must invest into the people and the fun and kind of the culture of what you want to be versus just let it happen. So like, doing monthly employee events or doing, food stuff together or activities together, that kind of builds a kind of a natural culture that, I think people would enjoy working with.
Right. So that kind of brings up my next question. How do you build a great employee culture here? What are some of the things that you do?
So we try to do like a monthly, kind of team lunch and or activity. Last month we went to the Richmond Squirrels game. It was like a noon game.
Oh, nice.
And we just all kind of hung out together. We've done other things in the past. We went to last year for our 10th anniversary. We went to an employee's house. She had a pool, and we kind of did a big kind of cookout. Cool. We've gone to the golfing range before and kind of done a little clinic with everybody. We've talked about doing like a whitewater raft trip.
Oh, nice.
People want to do like either the shooting range or the axe range.
Yeah, I feel like that's a popular
do something
one.
like that. But again, I think the thread of our company is hiring people that relationships matter more than anything. Yes, we can make more money. Yes, we could do this or that, but the relationships between people and between us and our clients and our vendors is the thread of which kind of keeps everything together. People care about each other.
Gotcha. So what is one thing that you see common amongst failing business owners? If you ever have had experience with somebody that has failed in business.
I can't say that I've had experience in that much more than one thing that we've never done is borrowed any money from the bank, from anybody. But I think failing businesses have overextended themselves on credit. So they've borrowed more money than they were able to pay back. And that's what kind of happened with like the 2008, crash is, people borrowed more money than they were able to pay. And so that can be a challenge for a business owner that's like, hey, we need to grow to keep up with our debt. And then if that growth somehow slows, we have a downturn in the economy and the debt, the debt's still there. If you can't be over top of the debt, then
right.
you're gonna eventually go down unless you just have a ton of money that you don't care what to do with it. But
yeah.
I'd say cash flow, just not having enough cash. And so a lot of people, I think, operate their businesses very, with minimal cash in the bank, and they rely on credit. And we're the opposite. We want to make sure that we have plenty of cash in the bank so we don't have to rely on the bank to make sure that we stay afloat. We're making decisions based on what we know we can afford, not necessarily because what the bank has given us from a credit line standpoint.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that sounds exactly like something my dad would say. He always talks about our competitors and how they've got, since they're charging by the hour, they've got to be just constantly just in a line of credit. Yeah. So it's like one downturn on the economy and it just flushes out all the bad competition.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly true. So I mean, I'd say cash is one, and then the other I would say just kind of a failed plan. They haven't done enough due diligence to confirm that, hey, is this a viable business? They've done a pro forma, they've done, kind of a business plan to say like, hey, based on these numbers, we think this can happen. And it may be just completely out of the woodworks. They have no validity to it at all. I mean, that's, I think I've read a stat that was like in the first 3 or 5 years of any business, like 90% of them fail. Yeah, I think I've heard that as well. So if you can get it through the first 3 or 5 years, you've kind of proven a record enough. Assuming you manage it correctly at that point, then things will hopefully fall into place. Gotcha. So I know you're in like peer groups such as the Council of CEOs. What kind of benefits does being active in like your community or community groups like that have? To me, in any world, you got to be out. You can't always be behind a desk in your office. Whether that's in a peer group, in a networking group, in some type of nonprofit organization where you're giving back. Because if we take all the people that are in this world and we have each of them be involved in one organization to give back, think of how awesome the world would be.
Yeah.
Right? Something that either they have a passion for or that they're really good at. Like, I might be really good at this, but I'd rather be doing this because that's a passion of mine. But I think being involved in organizations, that you have a passion about, everybody, not the company, as a, hey, we give a certain percentage back to feed my starving children. Is no, every individual needs to be engaged in some type of charity organization, nonprofit organization that does good.
Gotcha. So not just the business owner, everybody, all the employees.
I mean, to me, that's where the culture comes. Like, if the business says, "Hey, we're going to be charitable this year," it's like, sounds great. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
The culture comes from each of those individuals being involved in their organizations, that the company can then support them being involved there. So, I was talking to somebody recently that's, and somebody asked them the question and said, well, how do you donate towards your employees? If somebody says, hey, I need some money for this event, they're like, if the employee is involved in that organization, no questions asked, we'll donate to it. If the employee is not involved, they said, we're not doing it. You can't get money for your brother's event over here. It's like, no, if you're involved in that event, then we'll give money. So it's kind of empowering the employees to be active in their community, and then making sure that the company supports their endeavors and not just always from the top.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. So last couple questions here. What accomplishments do you have that make you the proudest?
Being a father. I pride myself on being a present dad. There are a lot of dads in this world that think working long hours to provide for the family is their duty. And in reality, I think their family would say, we'd rather you home earlier and make less money, but we would rather you be here. And I think a lot of men lose that picture because they're so driven by what they think is success for them, and that's bringing more money home and being gone, because that's their duty as a father. And I'm hoping to reverse that trend. I'm involved in a organization called the Relationship Foundation of Virginia, and they do a annual fundraising campaign called Funding Fathers, and it's all about raising awareness about how much the impact of having a dad in your home can increase the likelihood of a child kind of going through life much more healthy than obviously if there's no dad visible. If you ask all the people in jail, like, hey, when's the last time you saw your father? I've never known my father.
Exactly.
I haven't seen my father since I was 3. The lack of a father in a child's life is a detriment to, their long-term success. So, just being present for my children and being an engaged father is probably my biggest, proudest area that I try to focus on.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree with that. So I know you kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but what would you say like your definition of success is? I know it's not always about making money.
Yeah.
Maybe it's another area.
My definition of success would be, at the end of the day, if at my funeral, if you will, having the people that attend that want to speak about me would say that, my relationship with Jesus Christ is number one. They would say Todd was a faithful follower of Jesus Christ. Todd was a faithful husband. Todd was a very engaged and active father. And he operated and ran a business that found financial success, but provided a wonderful working environment and culture for a number of people who were able to then flourish in their own lives. And I think that's kind of the route of which I kind of take down and think that would be success for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where do you see yourself in like 20 to 30 years?
20 to 30 years?
Yeah, do you still see yourself working?
Retired, baby.
Retired?
Come on, man, I'm not that young.
On a golf course?
That would be nice. So I'm 38 years old. So 20 years I'd be 58.
Okay.
30 years I'd be 68.
Okay.
I hope that by the time I'm 60, I don't have to work.
Mm-hmm.
I might still work, but I don't have to.
Gotcha.
And so
you found somebody else to run the business.
or I'm financially secure or independent from needing that income anymore. Whether I've sold the business or I'm still working in the business, but it's not an active. I'm not an active, engaged owner at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm able to do either more nonprofit work that I don't get paid for, or find a job like working at a golf course and just enjoying being around it. I love golf. I love traveling, and I think being able to travel with my wife, and we've done it before kids. It's hard to do now, but I think doing that again would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, picking that back up. I know my grandparents travel all winter.
Yeah, I've heard.
Gone. Yeah,
they cruise like a year-long cruise or something.
Yeah, 3 months out of all winter they're going on a cruise ship. So
yeah,
that's awesome. So you talk about golf a lot. What do you think about Tiger winning the Masters?
Tiger winning the Masters was a great story.
Mm-hmm.
He was literally down at the bottom. He got arrested.
Yep.
And was in jail. I mean, the guy had hit rock bottom, got exposed. He got everything handed to him that I don't think anybody would want to go through publicly.
Right.
Had a ton of injuries. Literally thought he would not play golf again ever, and has climbed back, fought back, and essentially come back to the pinnacle of golf and winning the Masters golf tournament. And so just the daily grind that takes, and the mental
mm-hmm.
toughness that he had to endure to kind of go through that process it's almost like unlike any other. I mean, nobody's gone all the way to the bottom to have to come back. People I had a year or two that was bad, but I'm back. He went to the bottom and is now back at the top, and it's just
further down to the bottom than anybody's
correct.
Gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Most people go to the bottom and then you don't see them ever again.
Yep.
And so, I think it's great for golf. I think it's great for people to kind of see like, hey, you could be at the bottom right now, but don't worry. Like you can choose to get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the difference between him and most people. Is like most people are like, I don't know, I just can't do it. I'm going to quit. Or you know what, I'm never going to get somewhere, so I'm just going to kind of assume that this is the new reality and just adapt to it. And it's like no, there's just like business entrepreneurship, like there is a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Don't settle for this thinking that this is the norm.
Right.
There is a better way. Find it. Go explore it. See what you can find. See what you can make. That's how a lot of businesses have gotten started. They're just somebody has been willing to take a step and say, there is a better way. I'm going to go find it. And then they're passionate about it, and they go pursue it, and they find success, and you hear about the story and you're like, that's entrepreneurship right there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love stories like that. They get me pumped up.
I know.
So do you think other business owners should be interviewed like this?
Why not?
It's cool, right?
Yeah.
It's a cool idea. Awesome. So
what are you trying to accomplish out of it? Like, is there like a big picture that you're going to try to put together, like this video, or are you thinking just the process of doing, you can learn a lot from people? Or
yeah, I feel like that's a lot. Like I can learn some just talking to successful business owners. Obviously, I'm going to learn stuff and pick up stuff, and it's just going to change my mindset to, I think, thinking the right way.
Yeah.
And, but I also think it's good because like now with the power of like the internet and whatnot, you can put it out there so everybody can see stuff like this, and then you could like touch more lives and get more people in that mindset. So if I could do something like that, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
So do you have anything that you want to say to the camera, like any upcoming news about TK Promotions, or if we were to publish this video out, anything that you want to say at the end?
We want to take care of people.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to build reputations through our products. That's not for everybody. Some people just want cheap. They want online, and that's not what we're about. We want a relationship. And if you're out there and you want to build a business relationship with a company that appreciates family and relationships, and wants to build your reputation in your market, that's who we want to partner with.